Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome back from the MLG studios here in New York City. You're watching the Winter Exhibitions. This is day number six, where we got Sase versus Goswser. I'm axeltoss, joined by axslav. Of course, for those of you who don't know, this is a bracket involving the losers from round one of the 2013 Winter Championship event. They're all playing in a round of 16, a 16-person bracket. The winner gets $1,000. Second place gets $500. We've had 5 days of awesome action so far, and this is what has happened. We saw Marine King take out Seed. That was the first match we saw, and it was a treat to watch and a treat to commentate. Of course, Huck taking out Baby Knight, Vibe taking out State, Bly over Suppy. And then yesterday, we saw Creator, 3-0 Minigun, of course, Thorzane and Hero, essentially given buys because their opponents forfeited. And today, we're going to round out the round of 16 with good old Sase versus Goswser.
Sase versus Goswser is a match I'm very excited for. Both these guys are really good. One thing to note, in the MLG Winter Championships at Dallas, there was exactly 4 players who took a map off of a Korean, who weren't Korean. And 2 of those 4 players, yeah, exactly, Sase and Goswser. Sase, of course, took a map off Tasia. Goswser took a map off of Bomber. Both Tasia and Bomber top Korean Terrans. So both Sase and Goswser have proven they can take maps off the best of the world. They've also have some decent, success rate of their own against in other tournaments. You can see Sase there. He got 4th at this Spring Championship, so he's made deep runs in very competitive tournaments before. His best matchup is versus Terran, and now he's up against a Zerg, which historically he struggled against, although he did beat Snoot in the Winter Season Showdowns.
Yeah, of course, his opponent is going to be Goswser, and there's a lot of hubbub surrounding this guy and what he's been able to do in Heart of the Swarm thus far. Of course, a lot of people are going to remember his match against Bomber that occurred at the Winter Championship event where he fell in that best of 5, but a lot of people are characterizing that series as one of the, if not the best match from, if not the whole thing, the round of 16. I mean, that was an epic match.
It was. Of course, we're talking about Game 3 on Newkirk City.
Yeah. Well, Game 2 was phenomenal, too.
Yeah, exactly. That was my point, is that everyone talks about Game 3, and you're like, well, you know, Bomber ended up nuking his whole army at one point, and that played a significant factor in that game. But, I mean, that nuke was at the 35-minute mark, and it was basically a very even game up to that nuke, and then Goswser had that slide edge, and he was able to eke it out over the next hour. Yeah. That game went on for pretty much ever. But Game 2, Goswser was actually winning. He was significantly ahead, but Bomber made that great comeback with that medevac. All the secret missiles launched at his own medevac, took out Goswser's key support units, the Queens and Infestors. The Ultras were left alone. Of course, Ultras on their own aren't quite as powerful. And that was something I think that shows how good Goswser is that he was beating Bomber on Whirlwind up until Bomber pulled out that insane move. And
you know what would have been cool? Yeah. If while Bomber was doing that, Goswser neural parasited the medevac and sent it right back at him.
That would have been awesome. That would be an awesome move. Yeah. I would.
But like Goswser, I mean, that's the first time anyone saw it. Oh, so like to be able to do that,
coming. He didn't know it. Like, he's like, why is he sending medevac over my army?
Well, you can see it turn red, right? And
yeah, when all this stuff's going on, you're not gonna.
Absolutely. But if y'all missed that, you know, sorry if we're talking about something. What are you guys talking about? It's in the top 5 plays. Yep. I'm not going to tell you which one it is, but it's up there in the top 5.
And where can you find those top 5 plays?
YouTube.com/official MLGSE2, as well as every single match that that we broadcast. So every single match from the 2013 Winter Championship event, and then every single match from the exhibitions, which are currently going through right now. Speaking of which, shall we get into this best of 5 between Sase and Goswser? It's going to be on Cloud Kingdom.
Let's do it. Game number 1, like you say, Cloud Kingdom. Let's fire it up. This is a match I'm extremely excited for. The last couple of days, we've seen some very one-sided matchups. You know, Creator tearing apart Minigun, Vibe tearing apart State, etc. But I feel this is going to be a very close match. Both these guys, I think, are actually evenly matched. I mean, Sase historically has been the stronger player, but Goswser has making leaps and bounds in Heart of the Swarm.
All right, here we are in game number 1 in the top right-hand location of Cloud Kingdom. We have the Red Protoss player, a recent acquisition of Team Fnatic. He's currently training in Taiwan. He is Sase. Of course, he is originally from Sweden, but has had a fair share of traveling for not only StarCraft 2, but I think he was He dabbled in, was it Warcraft before StarCraft?
He was a Warcraft 3 professional.
Yeah.
Very, very, very good. One of the best night-out players outside of Korea.
And I also
in fact,
think
one
he
of the best
spent
in the world.
A good amount of his life in China.
For Warcraft 3.
Warcraft 3,
yes.
and I think playing poker too. He was big into that. Of course, his opponent in the bottom left-hand location, he is one of the better North American players. He got his start with Complexity, and he is definitely. I think he's on Millennium right now. Yep, he's on Millennium right now. So we'll have to see how he does here against his opponent. He is Gswser. And he's a guy in Heart of the Swarm who's really been raising those eyebrows. Probably near the end of Wings of Liberty as well. He started getting some phenomenal results, and that's definitely continuing into Heart of the Swarm. And a victory here would definitely help help increase that fan base is starting to.
If you look at kind of Gswser's track over the last 6 months, his tournament results have been just increasing. His exposure and his wins over big players have been steadily increasing as well. So he's a player who's on the up and up, which is something excited to see. Can he continue to make that upward track? How's he going to look going forward?
And Sase, like, when I first got into StarCraft 2, I was looking for players to watch. Of course, I was a Protoss player. Sase was one of my go-tos whenever his stream was on. Of course, this is still true for today. He is one of the most entertaining streams out there, not only because of his great APM and micro ability, but the strategies that he elects to use. You're not going to see those everywhere. Like, again, we're seeing right here, he's one of those guys that puts 2 guys in gas instead of 3. Just trying to be as optimal as possible. You see him pairing up those probes on the minerals. So definitely a unique Protoss player, and if you're looking for those creative strategies, if you're looking for those new build orders, you'll definitely watch his stream. And of course, Goswser, again, he has some very innovative strategies as well with the introduction of Heart of the Swarm. Like, he was one of the first guys we saw actually using Swarm hosts very, very effectively. So yeah, I mean, this match should be phenomenal, guys. And if you haven't already, get on Team Liquid, get on Reddit, get on Twitter, and tell people this is going on, because this is going to be fantastic. We're going to see the first shots fired as the Zealot tries to track down the Zergling. Oh, the probe! Being a ninja, Ghostsy's unable to stall that at all.
Not able to stall, but he's able to get a great scout off. And one thing that's very important to notice about these openings, you talk about Sase and his unconventional openings, getting 2 gas as a side core before your expansion as a Protoss in Protoss First Zerg is a fairly unique approach. Some people do it, specifically European Protosses enjoy doing this type of opening sometimes. But the thing to note is that the Protoss economy is going to develop very slowly because there's only a single Nexus building probes for quite a long time. So what the Protoss has to do is they have to try to slow down the Zerg from taking the 3rd base. They have to try to do some damage with an early harass. They have to do something to mitigate the fact that their economy is going to be behind. And with Ghosties, they're able to scout Sase and see that there wasn't a super fast target. Of course, it was thrown down right after that Zergling left. Ghosties is going to feel confident to build nothing but drones for the next few minutes. And it's really going to be onto Sase to try to get some damage done with these target units once they enter the field.
Now, Gswser has delayed his 3rd a little bit. I mean, a lot of Zerg players will take that fast 3rd, especially on a map like Cloud Kingdom, where it's relatively easy to defend. You got a nice little ramp leading up to it. But Gswser not going for that standard 3 hatch, nothing but drone play, getting a gas. And not only did he get speed, but he's continuing to keep guys on gas, so he's going for that faster layer. The problem is Sase should be able to scout this right away.
Sase is definitely going to see this coming. Gswser is likely going to go to Swarm hosts, but as soon as he sees Stargate play, he'll probably incorporate some Hydrodus as well, unless he decides to go for some weird Mass Queen type follow-up. The question is, how much damage will this first Oracle do? Gswser, of course, going up to 4 gas. A Zerg on 4 gas, that means they have 12 drones mining gas, which makes your mineral income a little bit smaller. So every drone you kill that hurts the mineral income even more, it makes it much, much harder for the Zerg to then take that 3rd base and to develop a big Swarm host army as the game progresses. A 2nd Oracle being built by Sase, so he's going to really look to do a ton of damage with these things.
Looks like he's sending the first one across the map. Yeah, going toward his opponent's natural expansion. It's going to get spotted. No, it's not. That's actually a Zealot at the Watchtower. So Sase making sure there's no vision from his opponent, and he's going to go straight to that natural expansion. No Spore Crawlers are there at the moment, so we'll have to see how much damage this Oracle can do. And there goes swinging in there and deploying that Pulsar Beam, and now we're starting to see those kills add up to 6 drone kills already. Make that 7, 8. It's going to stay at 8 for now, but definitely worth it so far.
Oh yeah, 8 drone kills. I mean, just to replace those drones is 400 minerals, not to mention the fact that they're not mining for that time that it takes Goswser to make those replacements. Now he's making the Spore Crawlers. The second Oracle's heading to the main, but I think the Spore Crawler should be almost up by the time it gets there. Might get 3, 4, potentially even 5 drones. The Queen is there, but of course we saw before, one Queen can't really stop an Oracle harass for too long.
The Spore Crawler just now finishing Sase getting 3 kills there before backing away. Both Oracles are still alive. A Queen making her way across the map. I think he was thinking about dropping a creep tumor where this Overlord was, but Sase able to identify that and prevent that from happening.
This is something we've seen Gswser do before, and if he gets that creep spread going from that third base, it makes it very, very hard for the Protoss to take that third base. Even once they kill the tumors, it takes quite a long time for that creep to recede. We can see there in the units, the loss tab, though, I talked about earlier how Sase's later expansion means he has to do some damage, but he has done it. Look at all those units killed. Most of those were drones, and as well as the Queen and a couple Overlords. So he's gotten a lot of work done, and he's lost nothing but a single Zealot. And of course, that Zealot took a couple Zerglings out as well.
Oh, Zerglings going straight to that third base. Out of force fields is Sase, but going to be able to protect those sentries for now, using the pulsar beams right away to make sure those Zerglings don't get too much damage done. Sase playing this very cost efficiently so far, has yet to go take that Nexus though, which is a little bit interesting to me. So just staying on 2 bases for a little bit longer, getting some more safety out on the field, has that Immortal out, even making a Colossi and a second Robo before that third.
2 Robo off 2 base.
Yeah.
Double Robo all the way, says Sase, and this is a bold move. Extremely rare to see this. Really interesting because so few Protoss do this. And I think he feels safe doing this because he knows his opponent isn't going Spire. He says he's going Infestation Pit. It's either going to be Infestors or Swarm Hosts. Against either one of those, the Colossi are great.
Yeah, and he's perfectly willing to take that third a little bit later. He's been keeping an eye on the progress of his opponent's third base, and he's been sending hallucinated Phoenixes in it, but this one is real, so we'll have to see how Gswser reacts to this. Of course, the damage is going to be done to those Overlords, but it's a pretty interesting twist. Sending a bunch of hallucinated Phoenixes, but now sending a real one.
It is. It is kind of interesting. I mean, the fact that he sent the real one and he attacked those Overlords means he's not trying to do some weird surprise air transition. What he is trying to do, though, is he says, okay, I want to conserve sentry energy because they only have 2 sentries. I can't throw out too many hallucinations. I'm running out of energy, but I do want to keep scouting to make sure there's no meta transition. Gswser gets the cancel on a third Nexus. Gets the probe kill as well, but
there's another one there.
Second probe.
Oh, don't get that probe.
Oh,
he's going to get it.
He's going to, and you know, in a way, it's like he lost a lot of speedings for that, so just for 2 probes, it wouldn't be worth it. But it wasn't just 2 probes. There's also the fact that slowing that Nexus down, even by 15, 20 seconds, that's still 15, 20 seconds of a third base mining, and it's definitely worth a few speedings. Of course, speedings are easily replaceable in StarCraft 2.
It's interesting when you consider like how this game is going, though, how big of a deal that is. Obviously, it's a pretty big deal, but both these players are taking slower expansions, it seems like. Gswser, he literally just got his third base down. So, you know, I don't think Sase is necessarily as pressured to get that third down. But, of course, it is a pretty big deal. And Gswser doing a great job delaying that as much as he can. But I feel like Gswser, he's going to be on 6 gases here. Probably going to want a 7th and 8th fairly soon. So might start considering trying to secure a 4th fairly soon.
Sase is getting some more value from these Oracles, clearing up the creep. One Oracle using Envision. The other, I imagine, will turn on its Pulsar, being knock out a few more creep tumors before the Envision fades away. Great utilization of Sase of his air needs throughout this game. I mean, I feel Sase has got to be confident. You mentioned he's not too worried about the later third, and that's because he's done so much damage.
Yep.
And not only with the Oracles early in the game, but he's got all the speeding kills. He knows the scouting as well. He knows there's no Mutalisk in play. He knows the third from Gswser is late. Sase, I mean, he's an equal supply while he's going double Robo, mass Protoss, like heavy units, right? This isn't like mass Stalkers, mass Zealots, or basic units. He's going heavy tech, and you stay neck and neck with Gswser in supply, so he's in a very good position so far.
I wonder if Gswser has been able to identify this. I'm looking at his vision now. I'm not necessarily sure if he knows, you know, the tech path elected by his opponent. Of course, there's a difference between one Robo and 2 Robos. There's a difference between, obviously, 1 Colossi and 5, and I don't think he's even seen 1. So we'll have to see how Gswser ends up reacting to this death ball coming out here from Sase. Very heavy on that Colossus count, all the way up to 5, and now starting to add in those Immortals.
Gswser now knows what's coming at him. He's got a very interesting composition. A lot of Infestors with full energy. a decent number of Swarmos, a few Hydralists, and he does have a lot of Queens, but they're all spread around. The question is, what can the Swarmos do against this high of a Colossi count? He's trying to get Corruptors up, but they're still in production. His fourth is going to be abandoned. The Infestors are going to be key here. Can he land great Fungals?
Also, the Swarm hosts are a little bit, they're not perfectly synced up as far as ejecting those Locusts, and that's very important. Fungal going down onto the Protoss army. Is that going to be enough here from Gswser trying to shove this army away?
Oh, the Stalkers!
Very good amount of damage.
He's gotten every single Stalker. Once these Corruptors pop, there'll be nothing to shoot them. The Colossi are being focused out by Locusts.
Oh,
and
no.
look at this. Gswser's composition just slams Sase.
Immortals cannot shoot up. They're going to be running as fast as they can. Like, sorry, Colossi,
wow.
You're going to die. But Sase...
That was just... That Protoss army evaporated.
It did.
It was like 5 Colossi, a bunch of Stalkers, and the Zerg just killed it with Locusts and Fungal Growth. And the secret was there, I think, is that once he ran out of force fields, remember these Locusts, they do 13 damage each attack. The weapon speed is 0.8. Yeah. That's even faster than a Hydralisk. So they attack insanely fast. Their base damage is the same as a Hydralisk, so once they can close the distance with the Fungals, so Sase couldn't retreat, his units were fungled, even the Colossi just went down so fast.
Yeah, I mean, I think Sase definitely overextended a bit there. I mean, you know, if we're talking about goals at this point in time, Sase, he wants to, you know, take a 4th base while denying his opponent a 4th base. So I feel like a better option for him might have been, all right, kill that hatchery, make sure your opponent doesn't have that base, and then back away. It looked like Sase was trying to extend a little bit further, going towards his opponent's 3rd, and he ended up paying for it.
The Tempest is here, but not too effective versus Locusts. More and more Zealots going down. The Immortal's going to fall as well. Sase has no efficient way to deal with these Locusts. He can't close the gap, but now the Tempest is surging forward. Revelation is placed on Gswser's army so he can keep track of where it is, and Gswser is going to back away. Of course, the Corruptors can deal with the Tempest, but in some situations, the Tempest can pick at him, and if there's enough protecting that Tempest from the Corruptors, of course, it's hard to close the distance, and Sase does have quite a large Blinkstalker force. Gswser's now pushing into 9 to 4 from Sase. He's going to siege up the 3rd from the low ground.
Let's see how Sase ends up reacting to this.
So many Locusts.
It is. And if we're talking about anti-Locust defense, ideally you'd have a bazillion Colossus. It looks like only 3 on the field right now for Sase. Actually make that 2. So it's going to be very challenging indeed. It looks like a cannon getting taken down.
One Colossus almost goes down, loses a lot of life. The Photon Cannon is down as well. The Corruptors are going to... Oh, there's nothing to answer that many Corruptors. Oracle goes down. Stalkers blinked to the front, but that means they're vulnerable to the Locusts. Yeah,
Locust trying to get up there. Oh, great Fungal onto the Immortals. Corruptors targeting down the Tempest. Might go after the Colossi after this. The Roach is extending forward as well, but a lot of Infestors going down here for Gswser. Sase blinking forward, trying to target those down. Also targeting down the Corruptors above, but the Locusts are still going to be a problem. Still plenty of Swarm hosts back here at Sase's 4th, and he's going to have to back up.
He is. The Locusts are just too strong from the deal with when the Corruptors took out the Colossi. Also note how Gswser very cleverly put 2, I think it was 1 or maybe even 2 Overseers with that army to make sure there were no observers. So even if Sase did have the stronger army, there's no way that he could actually kill those Swarmos. Sase is going to go on a counterattack. Fighting against Locust is a losing battle. He knows he cannot hold that 3rd base, so he's going to give it up. Take some damage from the next Locust wave, might actually finish that off. And the counter, Gswser has nothing to answer it because his whole army is Broodlords and Swarm hosts, and both those are on the attack right now trying to get back to defend.
Yeah, the Broodlords all the way at Sase's potential 4th base, going to try to retreat to deal with this army. As you said, Gswser doesn't have a lot of spines back here either, not a lot of static defense to potentially deal with this. 7 Infestors are about to pop, though, which will bring him to 7. Looks like he doesn't have any on the field, so desperately wants to get those out. This hatchery might end up falling, though.
Sase's got to be very careful. He cannot afford to lose this army, and the army cannot fight Gswser, so if he gets pinned, he's going to be in trouble. Locusts on creep are doing a lot of damage. Speedlings tried to cut the army off, but now the Speedlings are dead. Sase is going to retreat from the Locusts. Where are those Broodlords? They're still trying to cut him off. He's got it. Sniping the Corruptors. Key win for Sase there.
Yeah, and 1 Colossus is going to survive. So Gswser's definitely going to have to rebuild those.
Oh, the Overseer goes down as well.
You don't want to overextend with those. However, there are some Locusts here to supplement. And now we're seeing the composition that is as free as anything. Of course, Locusts and Broodlings coupled with Fungals and Infestitarians can be very scary indeed. And again, all that costs pretty much nothing. So Sase is going to back away. Fungal going to be nabbing down those Immortals. Sase forced to turn around. Has 2 Colossi here. Fungal's going down onto the Stalker army as well. And Sase has no choice but to back up once again.
He has to. Sase is getting more and more Colossi and Stalkers. Stalkers deal with the Broodlords. Colossi to help against the Locusts and Broodlings. He's trying to suck around. The Locusts are stuck on the low ground. There's no new Locust Wave up,
but
the Brood Lords are enough that he can't jump and take out those Swarm Hosts, not to mention the fact that with the there's no Observer as well. Gswser's done a great job of sniping those out throughout this game. Sase's on their retreat, but he's going to keep killing Gswser's bases.
He can't directly engage this army unless he gets a phenomenal angle and the Locusts are doing their own thing across the map or something. So Sase is going to rely on just countering, taking down additional bases, taking advantage of his mobility, blinking every which way. But can Gswser, can he zone Sase out and essentially trap him?
Oh,
he's going to blink forward.
Losing full energy Infestors without even using a fungal growth.
Wow. That's exactly what Sase needed, and he's just going to back away. Taking down 4 Infestors, lost a couple Stalkers, but not the biggest of deals. He wants to save this Colossus, still going to try to take down those Corruptors. Definitely going to be worth it. The Colossus very low in health, but he's going to survive, and Sase playing that well, but he's unable to secure these bases at the middle right-hand location or the bottom right.
Gswser is saying, you can play the mobility game against my main army, but if your main army's out of the picture too, I'm going to utilize Speed Leans, one of Zerg's strongest assets, not only knocking out both those right side bases, but now running by into the natural as well. But the real story here, what's important is can Sase hold this Doom Push at his third, his only mining base left? I don't know if
Honestly,
he can hold it.
There's not that much here anymore if we're really looking at it. I mean, we got 6 Swarm Hosts, we got about 7 Brood Lords.
What happened to all the rest of the Swarm Hosts? Did he lose?
He was able to cut some off. Gswser lifted them all up and went toward the third. Sase was able to take advantage and snag a few of those Swarm Hosts. Of course, Storm is not able to finish there for the High Templar. That's actually a pretty big deal. Storm can be very instrumental in getting the momentum into your favor. Here we go. Gswser coming forward with the Brood Lords, but Sase blinking up there with his Stalkers. 3 Brood Lords gone for free, which means Gswser is down to 4. However, Sase is only on 2 bases, but Gswser coming forward again with Infestors, but losing them. Losing about 2 Infestors, only 3 Infestors remain, 2 Brood Lords remain, 1 Brood Lord remains now, 2 Ultras here, but they're going to die as well. Gswser sending in units 1 at a time, it seems, and Sase, he's able to hold, for now at least.
He is. Observer is able to see those Swarm Hosts. A little bit of a lag in the game here. Sase has broken Gswser's army, but one thing to note is his economy. He can't afford to really replace these units. Gswser is refunding an Ultralist, and against a primarily Stalker army. One thing though is that the Stalkers, with their mobility and blink, you can sometimes focus on one Ultralist, blink away, and then just run until your blink cooldown gets up again. Keep doing that. To counter that, of course, is fungal growth, but so far this game, we've seen Sase do an excellent job of sniping Infestors before they get those fungals off.
And not just Infestors, I mean Brood Lords, Swarm Hosts, getting Ultras on their own. Like, this composition here from Sase compared to the composition of his opponent, that's pretty much exactly what you have to do, because if Gswser is able to engage with all these core units together, all these expensive units together, it's pretty much impossible to stop. What Sase is doing to kind of combat this is, all right, I'm going to take down additional expansions, try to make sure that you can't take additional bases, and then again try to section off these expensive units. This is exactly what happened. He caught some Swarm Hosts off here. We saw the Infestors up in the top left, then more Infestors over here, then a couple Ultras, then a couple Brood Lords, and all this adds up, which means I think Sase is still in this game.
He definitely is. The hard thing for him though is he only has his natural mining and it's almost mined out. Can he establish that third base, or can he counter? Because we talked about his economy. He's killed Gswser's 4th base over and over and over again, and right now in the game, Gswser has no 4th base.
Yeah,
he does have
3 bases.
But 3 bases is still better than 2. So Gswser, his problem is that he just lost his whole army.
Yeah.
Sase's problem is economy. Can Sase use his currently strong mobile army to either end the game or establish his own 3rd base?
Yeah, he's got the cost-efficient units. He just has to keep doing what he's doing. Of course, we're having a little bit of a connection issue, so we're going to go to a quick commercial break and try to get back into the game. Don't go anywhere.